Well, joining me now is Republican Governor Chris Sununu of New Hampshire, who, of course, thought about a run for president himself, but decided against it. And in some ways, he's the ombudsman for the Republican Party these days. And so, Governor Sununu, get ready to play ombudsman here with us. Welcome back to Meet the Press.
Well, thanks for having me.
Let me start with something that another governor said earlier this week. It was Brian Kemp of Georgia pushing back at some Georgia Trump-supporting State House conservatives who wanted to use the legislature to essentially defund Fani Willis's case against Donald Trump. Listen to what Governor Kemp said about that move.
Up to this point, I have not seen any evidence that D.A. Willis's actions or lack thereof warrant action by the Prosecuting Attorney Oversight Commission. The bottom line is that in the state of Georgia, as long as I'm governor, we're going to follow the law and the Constitution, regardless of who it helps or harms politically.
I want to ask you this, Governor Sununu. You and Governor Kemp share this ability to take on Donald Trump and not to get politically penalized for it in your party, in your home state. Why don't other presidential candidates, not named Trump, see the success you and Governor Kemp have had and follow suit?
Well, again, first off, Governor Kemp is spot on. The guy's an oak. He's the oak of Georgia, and he's got some big shoulders, and he handles it just incredibly every time. And, you know, you don't have to make it personal. I'm not saying other candidates do that. I mean, when you're running for president against the former president, it's a very odd dynamic, to be sure. The key to taking on, not just taking on Trump, but you just call the balls and strikes like you see them. You don't make things personal. You do things that are clearly in the best interest of the constituents you serve, regardless of party. Now, I'm a staunch fiscal conservative, and I want to support Republican ideals, but that doesn't mean we're going to bend and break rules, because when you do that, you set precedent for the other side. Now, as for the other candidates running for president, I think you're right. I think they have to be a little tougher on Trump. You know, Chris Christie kind of really goes nuclear on him, and God bless Chris. He does a great job with that. He exposes a lot of that, which I think is important. But I think what we saw in that debate stage last week, I think there was still a little too much kowtowing to him. I mean, you had Vivek saying he was one of the greatest presidents, but he was going to be better than him. You know, he was still going to be running against him. So it was an odd dynamic, to be sure. There's still a lot of time here. A lot of time for this to play out. Over the
Are you
next
sure? I mean, let me show you this Wall Street Journal poll that came out. Yes, it's a national primary number. Yes, you got to take it with a little bit of a grain, because we know. But as you know, all politics have become national. Trump's lead has expanded.
Sure.
And DeSantis is closer to the single-digit crowd than he is to the 20s where he started off. This is clearly a poll that shows Trump strengthening and everybody else weakening. And this was done post-debate. So it sort of reinforces your point, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, I'm surprised by those numbers. I am. Look, nationally, the polls are very different than what we're seeing where the conversation is really happening. I appreciate we've had one debate nationally. I think that's a very important step. But look at Iowa. Look at New Hampshire, where the candidates are on the ground, making their case as strong as they can. Those poll numbers are very, very different, right? Trump is in like the 42% range. And Trump has a floor of maybe 35%. But he also has a ceiling. Ultimately, he probably has a ceiling of somewhere in the high 40s, because over a third of his supporters have said they would happily go to another candidate. They just need more time to look at them. So that's where Trump's weakness really is. It's not a fait accompli. I know a lot of the, not you per se, but a lot in the media are like, oh, this is over, this is over. It's really not. Remember this guy named Barack Obama, who they said had no chance against Hillary Clinton and the Clinton machine and all of that back in 2008. In about 6 months, things got very, very different. So you have to let the process play out, and I think the key is winnowing down that field. I talk about that a lot. We had 13 candidates a month ago. We have 8 or 9 today. I think we'll have 5 or 6 by the time Iowa comes, maybe 3 or 4 by New Hampshire. And then when it's one-on-one, Trump's in trouble. And he knows that. And so depending on who that one is, and it still very much remains to be seen, that's where the Republicans have the opportunity to talk about healing America, not just relitigating Donald Trump's drama.
Well, the person that's closest to Trump continues to be the governor of Florida. It's Ron DeSantis. He chose not to meet with President Biden in Florida yesterday. Let me play what President Biden said in response to what some believe was a snub. Take a listen.
No, I'm not disappointed. He may have had other reasons, but he did help us plan this. He sat with FEMA and decided where we should go, where would be the least disruption.
Look, Rick Scott, a former governor and a Republican senator who's up for re-election in 2024 and maybe is worried about swing voters, did show up and met with Biden. What do you make of the governor's decision? You and I both know there's this pugilistic streak on the right that some advisors believe, hey, never show like you can work with the other side. That's bad politics.
Well, look, I understand the politics of the situation, but I think down in Florida, I mean, it didn't sound like there was a lot of animosity between the two.
It didn't.
I didn't see the current President Biden, complaining in any great state. So I don't want to comment on their schedules or whatever that might have been. I think the key is you can't make politics out of a disaster like that. I think Governor DeSantis actually has handled both the previous and current very significant hurricanes very, very well. He's on the ground. It's when you have situations like that as a governor, it is 24/7. It really is. He was there with the head of FEMA and walking the sites, talking to individuals, working with insurance companies, bringing in the machinery. So it is really a 24/7 job, and I don't think we can look too much into the politics of that situation.
I think a lot of people hope that is the explanation there because none of us want to see that stuff get tied to politics. Let me ask you about this 14th Amendment debate. And the only reason I'm asking you is it actually there seems to be somebody who wants to bring this case to the New Hampshire ballot. So this could have an impact about whether Donald Trump's on the ballot or not. Let me ask you, do you expect to have to see this litigated before Donald Trump's on the New Hampshire ballot?
No. Donald Trump's going to be. I mean, if Donald Trump follows the rules like everybody else and is on the and signs up like everybody else, that's the beauty of the New Hampshire First in the Nation primary process. It's a very open, very easy process for a lot of folks to partake in, and so I see no reason why he wouldn't be on that ballot. I suppose if someone wants to try to litigate it, it's not really a New Hampshire issue. They're litigating it against the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, and therefore would be applicable to all 50 states. So no, I fully expect the former president to be on our ballot.
Let me ask you about a third-party movement. If Donald Trump is the nominee, Joe Biden is the nominee, we know that No Labels wants to come up with their own candidate. Are you supportive of that idea still?
Well, look, according to the polls you just showed, about 70% of America is supportive of that idea to not see Trump and Biden on that ticket. I heard someone put it once, 70% of America, if it's a Trump-Biden ticket, will be politically homeless. And I think that's a very good way to put it. They won't have any inspiration. Is that you? They won't feel very confident about going forward.
Are you going to feel politically homeless?
No, look.
If it's Trump versus Biden?
No, because they're not going to be on the top of that ticket. It's not going to be that way. Look, I think there's a good shot that neither of them are actually on that ballot. I think Trump can very much lose if they win it down to one-on-one. I think there's a lot of issues that are going to come to bear with President Biden over the next year and a lot of opportunity for the Democrats to find another candidate. But to the No Labels point, there's an opportunity there like never before. It would have to be the right candidate. It'd have to be somebody very energizing.
Would you be open to it?
Transparent, someone with a good record. No, nothing I'm looking at. Look, I'm still working 24/7 to make sure the Republican Party is the best version of itself. And that is it with yesterday's news of Donald Trump. And a conservative that can fulfill on all the policies that Trump brought forward that we agreed with, but he just couldn't get done. He didn't get the border done. He didn't get fiscal discipline done. He didn't drain the swamp. Those are great ideas, but let's get a conservative in there that can actually do it.
So there's no circumstance you would be a No Labels candidate if Donald Trump's on the ballot?
No, nothing I'm looking at.
What concerns you more, 4 more years of Biden or 4 more years of Trump?
To be honest, what concerns me more is that if we just fall into having both of them back on the ticket, I mean, I think you're bringing up the exact right point. This is not what America wants. It doesn't mean our primary system is broken. It means more of us have to be engaged in the system to make sure that our voice is heard as that 70% of Americans who always want to look forward. With Biden and Trump, all you're doing is looking backwards and relitigating a lot of drama. Nobody wants that. Everybody wants to move forward in a positive way, have a transparent government, have government and institutions they can trust. We got amazing institutions in this country, but there's a lack of trust there. Right. So it happens by bringing transparency, removing politics, and just getting back to getting stuff done.
And impeachment of Joe Biden healthy for the country? Good idea by House Republicans?
Impeachment of any president is an unhealthy thing for the country. I mean, that would be a terrible, terrible situation. Now, you have to figure out what happened there. I mean, there's no doubt that there's a lot of unanswered questions with the Hunter Biden issue. But no, let's be clear. Impeachment is a terrible thing for America. It brings everybody down. It rocks the system, if you will. It doesn't bring it to its foundations, but it does rock it. And we need to be more positive going forward, giving all the economic crises that not just that we have today, but as bad as it is going to come. Believe me, this economy is getting a lot worse before it's getting better. It's going to get very hard.
I'm curious, this political environment, you know, I've looked at all these special elections this year. There's been some other analysis. Democrats are overperforming anywhere. You've seen it in your home state where some Democrats have won special elections that normally Republicans win. Is this due to abortion? Is this due to Trump? What do you think it's about?
It's about the former president more than anything. And I can tell you, I've had school board members, Republican school board members that have lost their seats because they felt like they had to constantly answer for being a Trump Republican and all of that. It's a negative brand. It puts a lot of hesitation. So it isn't just the federal seats. It's the governorships, the school boards, the congressional seats, all of them, especially here in a place like New Hampshire where, we can kind of go back and forth. We're very independent-minded. Right. The Trump brand just doesn't work. It really doesn't. And so to kind of clear that off the table once and for all is a huge opportunity for Republicans to get back elected officials where their policy matters most, and that's at the local level.
Governor Chris Sununu, Republican from New Hampshire. I always enjoy going back and forth with you. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your perspective with us, sir.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, my friend.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.